Hello lovely people, how are you all? I hope you're well. I hope you're having some fantastic weather to enjoy. We had, for once in the UK, an amazingly gorgeously sunny bank holiday weekend recently. That never happened. So it's been absolutely gorgeous. Today it's sunny, there's a bit of a breeze, thank goodness, because actually it's been a bit too hot some days to do much in the garden. And also, life has just taken over a bit recently, so garden time has been scarce. And because of that, I am feeling a little bit behind. I feel like I'm about 2 weeks behind, so that's both with sowings and with some bed prep and structures and what have you. So if you're like me and you're feeling a bit behind, don't panic. Just grab time whenever you can and do whatever you can. So my plan today is to do a load of direct sowing. Direct sowing in the garden. And then what I quite often do is whatever I've sown in the garden, I'll sow a few bits and pieces in pots to put in the cold frame just as a backup, in case we have a massive slug invasion, which we already have. So I've had to resow all my brassicas because they've all been mullered by the slugs. Never mind. It seems to be proving a bit of a tricky for me this year with losing plants or not having seeds come up because of compost. It's so frustrating. And it's one of those things that, you know, if this is my very first year, I think I'd be really quite disheartened. But, you know, you've got to have the faith. Resow things, the things that are working, maybe try and swap bits and pieces with friends so you get a full array of veggies. But the most important thing is, don't give up. Even if it's a struggle in this, your first year, don't give up. And likewise, if you're like me and you've been doing it for 4 or 5 years and you've had it, you know, year after year have been just great, and then suddenly you have a year like this where nothing seems to be working, you just have to say it's one of those years and never mind. Now, talking of things not working, let me bring you all up to date on the herb saga. So like I say, I haven't had much time for gardening because I've been dealing with a whole load of personal stuff. So really and truly, whilst dealing with all of this, I could have done without having to deal with this stupid herb company. I think I've probably written 5 or 6 emails now, and I noticed about a week ago, it's around about the same time I made the video when I showed you when I was sort of potting them on and trying to save them. That must have been about 2 weeks after my original receiving of the package. I noticed I'd been refunded about 15 quid. So initially the initial order was £30 £30. So I wrote back to the company and I was like, you've only refunded me half the money. And it's the appalling attitude in the emails that gets me. The customer service has been astonishingly bad. But the email that came back to me was, well, they looked alive in your video. So they've obviously seen my video. So I'm thinking, you as a company, can you seriously stand by your product that I showed in my video? Those pathetic little plants, that's what you're standing by. So, let me show you where we're at now. Dead. I won't show you all of them. The only thing that is partly surviving, and it's an absolute scratty, pathetic little plant, the lemon balm. So this lemon balm has basically cost me £15, £15, 15 quid for a lemon balm. I'm almost speechless at how badly handled this whole situation has been. And someone put me onto a couple of review websites. I think one's called Dave's Garden, and you can look up all sorts of companies, and it's all to do with gardening. So there are seed suppliers, plant suppliers, I think there's tool suppliers and things like that in there. So I looked up this company. The first 3 reviews that come up, guess what they all mention? Rubbish packaging. So remember in my initial email they were like, oh, cat's just walloped the tripod. In my initial email they were saying, oh, the packaging is not a problem. Well, it obviously is, because there are 3 reviews in this that first came up on this review site that all mentioned the packaging. But interestingly, they also mentioned how the emails they got back from the company, how incredibly full of attitude they were from the customer service person who does these emails, sort of putting all the onus on the customer, or the blame almost on the customer. So I will tell you now who they are. You know, like I said, I've emailed backwards and forwards with them. I've taken 2 sets of photos. They've obviously now seen the video as well. Why should I have to spend all that time? I'm the customer. That's my precious, precious money I gave to that company, and all I've got to show for it is a scratty old lemon bar. So, lemon balm. They're called Victoriana Nursery Gardens. Victoriana Nursery Gardens. There you go. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And you know, Rusty's mugging me. I think still the worst part of it is my utter disappointment that I've got nothing to put in my garden, you know? If I'd known it was going to be so dreadful, I might have tried to find the room to start some seeds, because at least when I start my own plants, I develop beautiful, healthy, robust plants. Anyway, there we go. So I shan't be probably ever using the internet to buy plants again. If I'm ever in a position financially to be able to treat myself to a plant, I'll try to find a nursery local to me so I can see the plant, so I can speak to their the actual nursery men and women, and you know, yeah, that's it on the subject. I'm so gutted. My money, my Easter egg. Anyway, so something else I wanted to speak about just before I go into the garden. It occurred to me when someone was making a comment about having loads of frogs. I think it was Paul was talking about loads of frogs in their grass, and they can't strim, so they're having to hand cut the grass to look after the frogs. Just be mindful that we're at that time of year when some of the wildlife is coming out again. So, for instance, like old compost heaps, wood piles, those little areas behind your shed that you might be thinking of clearing up, what have you. Just be mindful that you might have had newts there, for example, over the winter, and they're going to start to, I think it's about now, they're starting to come out and find their way to ponds to do their things in ponds. They may have done it already, but just be mindful if you're turning your compost or moving anything that's been there for a while, you might have some wildlife in there. And the other, and this is the really exciting thing in May, I love it, is we are going to start soon to see stag beetles. Well, if we're lucky, we're going to start seeing them. They look pretty scary to some folk. I love them. Don't be scared of them. Please don't stamp on them and squish them. Oh my goodness. It's taken them a long time to turn into that adult. They're going to come out, they're going to mate, they're going to lay their eggs, and then they're going to disappear again. So if, for example, if you're walking down your road and it's sort of tarmacked, paved, whatever, and you see one on the floor, gently pick it up and pop it into a garden. They are notorious bad flyers. So if you've ever seen one, in fact, it's the craziest thing. If this is their body, they fly sort of vertical, sort of fly like this. So they crash land a lot. Their ideal habitat, they will lay their eggs into, well, the larvae live on rotting wood. So if you've got an area of your garden that you can dedicate to just having piles of logs which are slowly, happily rotting down, that's perfect habitat for stag beetles. So again, if you're moving that kind of thing, especially with the log piles, if you can hold off for a couple of months, that's all, just hold off for a little while and clearing those areas. because hopefully, like I say, the stag beetle is going to start emerging and doing their thing. If you do have to move them after that time, try somewhere in your garden. Just make a little corner for them. Some nice rotting wood, logs. They'll go into the soil as well, but they need the wood to eat, to live on. So, yay! I can't wait. I absolutely love them. If there was some way that I could have a pet stag beetle, I would. So, keep your eyes peeled for these most marvellous of marvellous creatures. Right, it's time to go and get some seed in the soil. Yay and hooray for getting things in the ground. So I'm just going to start off with my parsnips, and I'm using 2 varieties, Tender and True and Half Long Guernsey. I've done Tender and True since I got this plot 5-6 years ago, whatever it is, and they work fine here. And then a couple of years ago I discovered Half Long Guernsey, and I really like those two. They're a bit shorter but they're much fatter, so I like to do both. And then between all the rows, exactly as I've done for the last couple of years because it's worked so well, is I'm going to sow calendula between the rows. Firstly, because I need a supply of calendula for all my balms and oils that I use in the bathroom. But also the calendula get going really quickly and well, and then they act as a bit of a mulch. So this bed will, by the height of summer, get really crowded out with foliage, keeps the weeds suppressed, and then also it's just helping to protect the soil from too much moisture evaporation. Which hand have I got which seed packet in? Oh, that's that one. So the thing with parsnips is you really want to use fresh seed each year. It just doesn't do well from saved seed, or not saved seed as in saving your own, but saving if you've got leftover in your packets from last year or the year before. So there are some things like your brassicas where you get like 450 seeds in a packet and you're only going to sow maybe 40. They last really well. I've used brassicas 4 or 5 years after I opened the packet and they've been fine. Not so with the parsnips. So yeah, it's one of those that I always buy fresh. I did try a couple of years ago I had some fresh, but I thought I had a little bit of leftover, and I'd always heard this thing about use fresh seed. I thought, well, I'll give it a go for myself, and they didn't work. So there we go. I learned the lesson for you all. Now in terms of sowing, actually I'm just going to move you so you can see better. So just like with the carrots, just a little shallow drill. I don't always mark up with string, but I have today just because I'm getting 5 rows in really close. It just helps me to visualise my space. And also, like with the carrots, I try to sow as thinly as possible just to avoid too much thinning later on, because the one thing with the parsnips, actually it's true of carrots to a degree as well, with the root crops, is once they're in, you want to disturb them as little as possible, preferably not at all, which is also another thing I've learned over the years, is to direct sow. I have tried starting them off in loo rolls and planting them out like that, but even that sort of seems to just disturb them a bit too much. So thinly and directly. And I've also, as you just saw, given the drill a bit of a water, because despite last night's rain, it's still really dry. Okay, let's get sowing. Oh, wind's picking up. I'm going to have seed everywhere. And they can take 3 weeks or so to germinate, so be patient, don't despair. I have before now plugged gaps in germination towards the end of May, but that's when I've managed to get them in at the beginning of May, which I haven't this year, so gaps may not get plugged. quick water and get them covered against those pesky foxes. Yeah, it's drying so quickly. And now it's time to start one of my absolute favourite veg to grow. It's my chickpeas. So I first tried these 2 years ago, kind of slightly on a whim. Struggled to get seeds, so I just bought some from the health food shop, as in dried chickpeas for eating. They worked a treat and I had a fantastic harvest. So of course I repeated it last year. It ought to have been a good harvest, but the mice got there first. So this is what I managed to save. And this year I'm going to just try to time the harvest a bit better and beat the pesky mices to it. So in terms of sowing, I'm going to have the rows about 15 to 20 centimetres apart and pop the seeds in about 15 centimetres apart in each row. Now, the thing to just bear in mind as the season goes on and as they're growing is be really, really, really careful when you're weeding around them, because they absolutely hate root disturbance. So what I'm going to do today is get them sown and then try and figure something out by way of a mulch, which I'll show you as I work something out. So let's get these gorgeous things in the ground. Actually, just to say very quickly as well, even though the harvest was dreadful last year because of the mice, I still love growing it because it's such a beautiful plant as it's growing. And where I am here, next to the parsnips and calendula as well, it's right next to the deck. So I'm hoping that as a seating area with herbs, if I can get any herbs sorted out, and then with the beautiful chickpeas here, it's going to be a really lovely place to sit. And the bees go absolutely mad for the teeny tiny delicate wee little white flowers that come around about end of July, beginning of August. So let's get them in the soil. Just dip them in about sort of 3 or 4 centimetres down. We'll do them. Pretty much like your bog standard peas, really. Again, with the chickpeas, I have resown right into the beginning of June. After this lot have had a chance to germinate, where I see gaps, I'll just plug them with a bit more seed. Although the ground's quite moist, once they're all in, we'll give them a bit of a soaking before I mulch. Oh, here comes the sun again. considering this is my only chance to be in the garden, I've managed to pick a fab day. Bright, not too hot, lovely gentle breeze, quiet, just the birds. Tamara's on her plot next door, happily working away. It's just lovely and peaceful. Where's my pot? Hoopla. Leave that there when I go back up. Hooray for raking up the long cut grass from the orchard. This should do it. Just between yeah, leave a little gap for the seeds to poke up. I reckon this might do it. I even have to do my mulch in a neat row. Oh dear. Listen, I'm a neat freak. That's what I am. Delicious, delicious sunshine. Just having a quick little break. So the parsnips are in, the calendula are in, the chickpeas are in. They're all mulched, they're all covered against the pesky foxes. So the next little bed over is some more beans. I'm planting Rockencore and new to me, this one's called Calypso. So they're going to share a bed and then just a few fennel on the end. So excuse me, thought, let me just show you one of these Rockencore. They're such beautiful little black beans. See how else I can pick up on that? Isn't that a gorgeous little bean? So don't confuse, because I know it's got a French name, the Rockencore with the Coco de Paimpol, which I'll talk about in a second. This one I grow for the pods as opposed to for dried beans. So both the Rockencore and the Calypso are bush type beans, so they shouldn't get much more than 1.5 feet, 2 foot tall, if that. Now with the Rockencore, oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. They produce a beautiful long, slender, quite cylindrical pod, and like I say, I have it for the pod rather than the bean inside, and the pod is so waxy and beautiful. It has the most gorgeous texture when it's cooked. Literally, I just give it a couple of minutes of steaming, and then all through the summer, just handfuls in whatever salad I'm having. It's so gorgeous and yummy. The Calypso are new to me this year. Thank you, my friend Jackie in Canada. So they look very much like the pea bean, which is one of my climbing beans that I'm going to grow. These, it seems like they're grown for the dried beans as opposed to the pod. So I'm really happy to have a go, and I love what it says on the packet. The beans are easy to grow and fun to harvest. A great project for kids of all ages. Yay, kids of all ages. So I also need to get my Coco de Paimpol started. It's such another beautiful bean. Really quite round compared with other beans, sort of oval, but sort of more symmetrical than other beans. Now they need to be sown now, but where I want to plant them or have them eventually is where the broad beans are. So once the broad beans are finished, what I'll do is I'll just crop and drop them, as in I'll get all the pods off, cut the plants down, let all that wilt on the surface of the soil. But by the time that happens, it'll be too late to sow the cocos direct in the soil. So if you're growing cocoa like me this year, if you haven't got space, get them started now in pots. So I'm going to do a load in pots in the cold frame or outside of the cold frame. I think we're warm enough now, just about. But you need to get them underway around about now, so that by the time you have space in the garden, say mid-June, after the broad beans are done, you've got nice little plants, pop them in the ground and away they'll go. This plot this year is going to be all beans and squash by the looks of it, because the tomatoes are still struggling. I haven't given up, I'm still crossing my fingers. Right, that's enough of a sit down and a rest. Let's do some more sowing. Oh, I should say as well, with all the dwarf beans, I'll give them about, I'm really stingy on space, so I'll give them about 25 to 30 centimetres between the rows, and about the same between the plants within the row. I've never had a packet with the Rockencore. They were a handful of beans given to me by a friend. But I've since read, you know, oh, give them 2 feet in either direction. I haven't got a space for 2 feet. Bong them in next to each other. So, let's go sow. Ah, phooey. I've run out of time. Doesn't that happen to all of us all the time, eh? I had hoped to get much more done this morning than I have done. Never mind. So at least that bed number 4 with all the different beans and parsnips and peas, that's also brilliant. I've also done the coco de Paimpol in little individual pots in the cold frame. I've watered. I have to wend my weary way home now to do something else. It's been a weird session today in some ways, because I've got loads done. You know, in some respects I've got loads done. Didn't do as much as I wanted to do, but there's just this nagging doubt in the back of my mind this year that I'm trying to shake off. I'm trying to let go of, you know, the brassicas have all been eaten in the cold frame. My sunflowers have all been eaten. That terrible compost I had, so, you know, am I going to have any tomatoes? Maybe a couple of donated ones. It looks probably like no leeks, no celery, unless they can catch up a bit. Yeah, so I feel a bit, I don't know, I think I'm feeling a little bit disappointed at this stage in the year. I'm trying really hard not to be, and to just try and focus on what is growing well, and nurturing those little plants, and focusing on, you know, getting the seed in the ground as I've done today. Hopefully in the next few days I can plant out the flint corn, things like that. So, and also I think because with bed number 3, it's baked to concrete again, I really can't work it, so I don't know, I've never had a year quite like this where I feel so nervous about it all. I don't know why. Yeah. Anyway. Whatever happens will happen. Whatever I can grow will grow. I'll just make the most of what does come to fruition, and try to put the disappointments behind me. And like on a day like today, you can hear the birds. It's so beautiful, it's so peaceful. Yeah, it's a shift of focus away from, stop worrying about food, and just enjoy the garden for the space that it is. So on that note, I'm going to say cheerio to you all. I'm going to have a few minutes here on my own in the quiet, and I hope I will see you all again really soon. But in the meantime, take care, and I hope your seeds are all coming up and looking healthy and strong.